It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of February 16th, 1996. Got 4 movies to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend. It depends on which list you look at. This is usually the top grossing film, the new releases, or the second highest grossing, depending on which chart you look at on Box Office Mojo. Because on the 4-day weekend website, it's actually in second place behind the next movie we'll look at, but on the particular list I'm going off of, it's the top of the list, and that film is the golf comedy classic Adam Sandler in Happy Gilmore.
Gilmore. He was a hockey player.
Don't you ever touch my puck!
Now he's going from the rinks to the links.
Where you going with those gloves, punk? I'm your daddy.
He's got the swing.
He shoots, he scores!
He's got the drive.
This guy stinks.
He's got the ball.
All right, let's go.
Adam Sandler is Happy Gilmore. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
So Happy Gilmore was, of course, the second film for Adam Sandler after Billy Madison came out the year before. And there's been that debate on which one was the better movie that launched Adam Sandler's career in terms of film. Was it Billy Madison? Was it Happy Gilmore? I said when we talked about Billy Madison last year, I thought Happy Gilmore was the best of the two films. And I still stand by that, though. It's a happy movie. It's a very funny movie. It's a very fun golf movie. It's no Caddyshack by any means necessary, but there are still enough of those really funny moments in this that makes it kind of the Caddyshack for its generation, for the 90s. And it's a very funny movie. It's a very funny film where Adam Sandler really gets to showcase his potential as a comedic actor. Has a great cast overall. I mean, you can't go wrong when you bring in Christopher McDonald as the antagonist of the film. Julie Boland from Modern Family is in this. She's very good in this. Carl Weathers, of course, is in this as well. Just a lot of really funny moments are in this movie. Moments that are still quotable to this very day. Like, there's a lot of lines in this movie that you hear so many people quote all the time, and rightfully so, because it is a very funny film. It's a film that just works on so many levels, and it's had its place in history, too. Not just as a great comedy overall. It's still one of the best movies that Adam Sandler has ever made. Like, it's one of his funniest movies he's made, and it was one of those interesting things back then, because this movie was not a huge critical success at the time, and in fact, some people even put this on the worst of the year list for that year, notably Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, putting it in kind of the same category as Black Sheep. But really, when you compare Black Sheep and this movie definitely is much better. It's much more clever. It's much more funnier. It's also much more sillier, but it works much better than Black Sheep does. And I like Black Sheep a lot, but really the most notable thing that this movie actually did, which a lot of people don't really think about it at first, but when you really look at one scene in particular where Bob Barker shows up and he basically beats the crap out of Adam Sandler in that famous fight scene, a lot of people didn't realize it, but that scene in particular actually brought in a younger demographic to The Price is Right, which is amazing to think about because, you know, by this point, The Price is Right had been on for almost 25 years, and if you watch those older episodes, especially from the early 90s, they did have younger people in the audience, and they would show up as contestants on the show, but it's interesting to think about it, that this movie really kind of changed the course of The Price is Right success for the rest of the Bob Barker's time, because it really just ballooned the younger demographic to The Price is Right. And Bob Barker himself even said that someone in the audience asked him about Happy Gilmore almost every day. Like, this movie really had that big of an impact, especially when you consider the fact that The Price is Right tried to appeal to a younger demographic not but 2 years prior with the nighttime Price is Right, which was not a success at all. But all it took was Bob Barker beating up Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler telling him the price is wrong, bitch, and all of a sudden The Price is Right finally has a new audience that really found their way to that show. And it's very interesting to really think about that this movie was the catalyst because of that. Like, it was the reason why that happened. So it does have its place in history in a number of ways. It's one of Adam Sandler's best movies. It helped The Price is Right find a younger audience that they didn't expect to find. And it's still one of the best movies that Adam Sandler has made in terms of just straight-up comedies. It's still one of those movies that has been... It's one of his funniest films, honestly. Like, really, I don't think I have to say any more about this one. Happy Gilmore is just a great film.
Centuries ago, A legendary treasure was buried on a remote island. And there's only one living soul daring enough to find it.
Hello, everyone.
Captain Abraham Smollett is taking command.
This voyage has begun.
To wherever the wind may take us. Hurry, Rizzo! I'm going as fast as I can.
But there's trouble afoot.
Beware the one-legged man. He's the one to fear. Long John Silver, at your service.
One leg, Jim. Count 'em. One.
Now, the captain is being pursued by pirates.
Pirates.
We're sailing for buried treasure.
We're gonna be rich.
We're gonna be dead.
Surrounded by danger.
Terrific. Captured by crazed wild pigs and sacrificed hideously before a pagan altar.
Are we lucky or what?
Haunted by his past.
Bonsoir, mes amis. Smalley,
Old girlfriend.
Cabin fever, we lost our sense we had. We got cabin fever, we're all going mad.
Walt Disney Pictures presents, from Jim Henson Productions, a classic tale of ships coming in
Where did this crew?
and luck running out.
Get the treasure. Let's do it to the rat. This nice guy.
Muppet Treasure Island.
I'm starting to worry about this voyage.
That is, of course, our next movie, Muppet Treasure Island. Depending on which, like I said, depending on which list you look at on Box Office Mojo, the biggest new release of the weekend. If you're looking at the 4-day President's Day weekend, and that kind of makes sense. Kids movie, kids are off of school on President's Day, so that could be the reason. But we're not here to talk about numbers here. We're talking about the Muppet Treasure Island, which is I think the 5th movie from the Muppets, and the second one by Disney after they did the Muppet Christmas Carol. And, of course, this is an adaptation of the Robert Louis Stevenson story, Treasure Island. Basically put Kermit the Frog and the gang in these roles. Tim Curry plays Long John Silver in this. And out of all the Muppet movies, this is the one that I had not seen until I did the reviews for this back when The Muppets Most Wanted came out. And judging from what I saw, there wasn't really anything that made me that shocked or thought this was the bad one. Every franchise has a bad movie in it. This one's probably it. And when I saw the movie for the first time, I thought, honestly, it was pretty forgettable. It's not a bad movie, but my biggest problem with it is that they didn't really do anything to make it stand out on its own. The only thing I think made it stand out on its own was the opening song, the song Shiver My Timbers, which was very unusual for a Muppet song, and I thought that was very interesting, too. A very interesting song to do in this particular case, and a great score by Hans Zimmer overall, which I think it's very interesting that he did this, because he did this before he had done hit it big with the Christopher Nolan Batman movies and Inception, although he did The Lion King before this one. But other than that, though, the movie itself is pretty forgettable. I think there are moments where the gags still work with the Muppets, and Tim Curry can always be a ton of fun. But other than that, it's basically an adaptation of Treasure Island, only just throw the Muppets in there, and I really don't think the comic potential was really all there. Then again, it could also be my hatred for pirate movies is pretty much there, too. It's mostly because it's the same plot every time. I'm not even a big fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and I know a lot of people like those films, too. There are a couple exceptions, most notably stuff like The Pirates Band of Misfits, which I think is a fun film. And there's a little bit of a soft spot for Treasure Planet, too, even though I don't think that's a great film overall. It's just something that really is it's nothing that Muppet Treasure Island is not a bad movie per se. I don't love the movie, but I don't hate it either. It's just kind of in the middle. My big problem with it is that it doesn't really do anything new with it, or does something completely different or unique with it, except just throw the Muppets in there. Like, the Muppet Christmas Carol took chances. They made it work by delivering a lot of things that we're not used to seeing with the Muppet films here. Except for that one part in the beginning of the film, it just kind of feels like they didn't take full advantage of the possibilities they had. There are things overall that I did like about it, but I was kind of disappointed about it. I didn't get what I was hoping for, but I mean, honestly, it's better than some of the other Muppet films that we've gotten from them, and certainly a lot better than the next movie that came out only a couple years later. But we'll delve into that when we get to Muppets from Space in '99. But anyway, that's Muppet Treasure Island. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is City Hall.
I feel that this city
gonna explode. I am talking guns, I'm talking corruption, I'm talking 2,000 shootings a year. It all began with a shooting.
Got a shootout in Williamsburg, and there's 2 deaths, and they're connected, and that's all I know.
That's all I want to know. Kevin, you're my right hand. You're the mayor's right hand. Who do you think you are? Some gumshoe in a dime novel?
Aren't you supposed to be the pipeline to the mayor? You should tell him somebody's taken up the wrong street.
Both of you, you want to stay way the hell away from this one.
Whose side are you on? Yours? And I always will be, John.
Just because this kid thinks he can elect you president, are you going to forget who got you here?
I don't forget. I don't forget anything.
Why don't you run for office instead of carrying the mayor's bag?
I consider it an honor not only to carry his bag, but also to fill it at night with the things I think the city needs.
Damage control, Kevin. Damage control. There was a palace that was the city. A palace in which there is no king, no queen, no princes or dukes, but subjects all beholden to each other to make a better place to live.
This is an incident that will not go away.
I choose to fight back
Until this city, our city, is a palace again.
That trailer pretty much kind of sums up the movie itself. It doesn't really know what the hell it's trying to sell you. It tries to give you an idea that maybe this is a story you've seen done over and over again, but then that music really, I think, is the reason why that trailer didn't really ebb with the movie's flow, because it kind of sums up the point of why this movie doesn't work. It's a film that I think wants to be hard-hitting and deep, but it also wants to be a little more uplifting too, and I think that's probably the wrong way to go with this particular film, and I think it definitely shows why in the film. The performances overall are not bad. Al Pacino, I think, does another good performance in here, even though he's really overdoing it with the performance in this, especially in this trailer. Like, there are moments in there where he's clearly Oscar baiting for something here. John Cusack's at least trying, and so is Bridget Fonda. Everybody in here works fine, but there just isn't a coherent story to really make it stand up on its own. Like, it wants to talk about political corruption, it wants to talk about corruption overall, scandals, all this type of stuff, and it's just like, it doesn't really know what kind of a direction it wants to go for with it. Like, it doesn't really have a feel like it knows exactly where it wanted to go with this. You can kind of tell why this movie got pushed back, because it was supposed to be a Christmas release in 95, and then they just pushed it to the dumping ground months of January and early February, and you can kind of see why, because this is not a film that I think has its true priorities intact here. I think there is some parts of it that do kind of work. The casting, I think, really is the one thing that sticks true with it, even though some of those performances do get a little too over the top. But as far as the movie itself goes, I don't think they really filled up what they wanted to tell, like what kind of a story they wanted to tell. I don't think they had the right idea of what they wanted to do. I think they wanted to just do something where this would work solely on the performances of the actors, and it works fine on that level, but it's not something that I want to see anytime soon. It's maybe for a one-time watch, it's worth it, but there's nothing in here that's going to leave a lasting impact on you after you see it. I know it certainly didn't do that with me, so yeah, that is City Hall. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is Ellen DeGeneres and Bill Pullman in Mr. Wrong.
Look at them. They're so happy and in love. Don't worry, Martha. You'll be next. Thank you. She's drunk.
Martha Alston didn't think she'd ever find love.
I'm going to stop looking. That's when it happens anyway, when you're not looking.
Then he came into her life.
I'm with me.
He's brilliant. He's handsome. He's incredibly sexy. Did you? Yeah.
But the more she gets to know him,
You've got some faxes.
the less she wants to know.
Hello, Mother. Turn around. Good birthing hips and an adequate bosom.
I think we need to talk.
You want to do something fun? I don't want to steal beer. Stolen beer tastes better.
You stealing from me?
done.
Now, she just wants to call it quits.
I don't want to see you anymore. Is that clear?
But he's just getting started.
Are you telling me? Watch me now! Is this gentleman bothering you?
I'm her lover.
Oh, my God.
God, you look sexy in that little hat.
Touchstone Pictures presents Ellen DeGeneres and Bill Pullman.
Do you think that I love you enough to break my own finger?
Please don't.
Mr. Wrong.
That's love.
You know, Ellen DeGeneres used to make fun of this movie all the time on her talk show, but really, when you realize that a year later she would come out of the closet on her show, I think the movie kind of date-stamped itself pretty much to that point, and by that point the movie had already been largely forgotten, and for good reason, because the movie really isn't all that good. I mean, it's basically just a reversal of The Heartbreak Kid, and it's interesting because 11 years after this movie came out, the Farrelly Brothers would do another version of The Heartbreak Kid, which was also not very good, but it was certainly a lot better than this movie was. This movie, I think one of the reasons why this movie doesn't work, maybe also is because, bringing it back to the Farrelly Brothers, it feels like it's trying to be like the Farrelly Brothers-esque. Like Dumb and Dumber just came out 2 years prior to this, and this was probably one of those first movies that was trying to go for that type of comedy in this, that kind of slapstick comedy-esque type of thing here, and it just doesn't work. It's a film that just really has its priorities in the wrong place. I think there's just way too much here to ask these actors to do. These are two very good actors. Ellen DeGeneres, Bill Pullman can really show that in other films that they can be really good actors, but this just feels like this was something that maybe they thought they had some interest in making something great out of it, but in the end, it just came out being a very lackluster comedy. The jokes aren't really flying all that well. The material just doesn't work it well at all. And just the writing overall is just very lackluster. It just feels like a watered down version of The Heartbreak Kid. I mean, it's not that funny, it's not that interesting, it's not that intriguing. It says a lot when this is the only movie that Ellen DeGeneres has ever had a leading role in a live action film. Of course, she's had leading roles in the Finding Nemo movies and all that, but yeah, you can kind of tell why she makes fun of it all the time, and rightfully so, because it's not a very good movie whatsoever, and really, that's pretty much all you need to say about this movie. It's not a good film, period. It's a terrible movie. It's not funny. It's not creative. It's not that engaging. It wastes two very good, talented people that have proven to be good actors in other things. The cast overall in this is just wasted, and the director of this is wasted too. Nick Castle, who had done Dennis the Menace and Major Payne. This is Michael Myers, for God's sake. You'd think he would make a better movie than this, but, well, Mr. Wrong definitely proves you wrong on that front, so. Anyway, yeah, that's Mr. Wong. So with that said, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll look at February 23rd on the next episode with 6 movies, including Jackie Chan's Rumble in the Bronx. We also have Before and After, Julie Roberts and Mary Riley, Unforgettable with Ray Liotta, Wes Anderson's Bottle Rocket, and the documentary Anne Frank Remembered. So 6 movies to look at next time around, and we'll delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you guys for watching, I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.